When I turned 65, I planned a dinner party for my family. The table was set for 8. The roast was in the oven. A chocolate cake I had baked from scratch waited on the counter. I even wore a new dress, a deep navy blue with pearl buttons, the kind my late husband, Richard, used to say made me look elegant. Every detail was chosen with care. The fresh flowers I arranged myself. The place cards written in my best cursive: Elliot, Vanessa, little Logan and Emma, my sister June and her husband Ray. The head of the table was mine, so I could look out and see the people I loved most. By 6:30, no one had arrived. I checked my phone. The invite said 6 p.m., clear as day. I had sent reminders just 2 days before. At 7, I called my son Elliot. Straight to voicemail. Then Vanessa. Same thing. I tried June next, no answer. Which was odd because she always picked up. Always. The candles burned lower. The roast was cooling. My hands trembled as I wrapped the untouched cake and slid it into the fridge. I told myself maybe there had been a mix-up. Maybe something unexpected had come up. But I was lying to myself. I knew it. Then I made the mistake of opening Facebook. Right there at the top of my feed was a photo that made my breath catch. Vanessa, smiling in a flowing white sundress, her arm around Elliot, who was grinning like a teenager. Behind them, the deep blue of the ocean. The caption read, "Living our best life on the Mediterranean, so grateful for this family getaway." I scrolled further. Logan and Emma building sandcastles. June and Ray sipping cocktails at a ship's bar. Everyone was there, everyone except me. The timestamp said it was posted an hour ago. While I was still lighting candles and checking the door, they were clinking glasses on a cruise ship, thousands of miles away. I felt something inside me crack. Not break, crack, like the first sound of ice shifting before it splinters. They had planned this. Vanessa had organized a family cruise on my birthday and convinced everyone to go along. Even June, who had helped me pick out table linens just a week earlier. I stared at that photo until my eyes burned. Vanessa's smile looked almost triumphant. She stood in the place I had always occupied at the center of my family. At 8:12 p.m., I got a text from Elliot. "Sorry, Mom. Forgot to mention we'd be out of town this week. Vanessa booked a surprise trip. Happy birthday, though. Forgot to mention." As if an international cruise on my birthday was something that slipped his mind. I set the phone down carefully. I was afraid if I held it any longer, I'd throw it across the room. And for the first time in my life, I truly felt invisible. The morning after the party that never happened, I walked through my house like a guest in someone else's life. Everything was still in place: the folded napkins, the good china, the untouched wine glasses. It all looked like a scene waiting for people who were never coming. I stood by the dining table thinking this wasn't the first time, and it probably wouldn't be the last. For years now there had been signs, moments that felt small at the time, but now took on new meaning. Like the day of Logan's 4th birthday. I had driven across town, gift in hand, excited to see him blow out his candles. But when I arrived, Vanessa met me at the door with an apologetic smile. "Oh, Helen, I thought Elliot told you we had to move the party to tomorrow. Something came up." But I could hear children laughing inside. I could see balloons through the window. Later, when I asked Elliot, he sounded confused. "No, Mom. The party was today. Maybe Vanessa got the dates mixed up." Another time, I asked about Emma's first day of kindergarten. I wanted to be there with my camera, to catch that tiny, nervous wave goodbye. Vanessa said they were dropping her off super early, probably too early for you, Helen, like 7 a.m. But when I showed up anyway, the teacher told me Emma had arrived at the normal time, 8:30. And last Christmas? Vanessa called me 2 days before. Her voice was full of soft concern. "Helen, I hate to do this, but Elliot's been under a lot of stress. He asked if we could keep Christmas dinner small, just the 4 of us. Intimate. So I spent Christmas alone, heated leftovers, watched old movies. Then I found out from my friend Marlene, who follows June on Instagram, that there was a huge Christmas party at Elliot's house. 20 people, neighbors, co-workers, even some of Elliot's old college friends. But not me. It wasn't miscommunication, it wasn't bad timing. It was something else, something colder. And slowly, piece by piece, I was being removed from the life I had helped build. Elliot used to call me twice a week. We had Sunday dinner together every other weekend. He'd ask about my garden, bring the kids by just to say hi. but then Vanessa entered the picture. And over time, the calls became less frequent, the visits shorter, the invitations fewer. And now, as I stood in the quiet of my own home, the silence felt deliberate. Like someone had been slowly closing a door, and I hadn't even noticed until it was nearly shut. Until now. 3 days after my forgotten birthday, the doorbell rang. I was still in my robe, sipping coffee and staring at the thank you cards I had bought but never sent. I wasn't expecting anyone. Most days, no one came. Through the peephole, I saw a man mid-40s maybe, dressed in a wrinkled blazer. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His hands were deep in his coat pockets. He kept glancing over his shoulder, like he wasn't sure he should be there. I hesitated. After the cruise incident, I wasn't exactly in the mood for strangers. But something in the way he stood tense, nervous like he was gathering the courage just to stay put made me curious. "Can I help you?" I asked through the door. "Are you Helen Carter?" His voice was cautious. "I am." "Elliot's mother?" My heart tightened. "Who's asking?" He paused. Then he said something that chilled me. "My name is Michael Chang. I need to talk to you about Vanessa." I kept the chain on but opened the door a few inches. "What about Vanessa?" Up close he looked even more exhausted. His eyes were bloodshot. His hands trembled slightly. "This is going to sound insane, Mrs. Carter, but I think my son might be living in your son's house." For a second, I thought I had misheard. "What did you just say?" "Logan," he said, 7 years old, brown hair, has a scar on his chin from falling off his bike when he was 4. I stared at him. That scar, I had helped clean it. I remembered the day like it was yesterday. Elliot had called, frantic. Logan had taken a bad fall, and they had rushed him to urgent care. I had driven over with popsicles and coloring books. I had kissed that same scar as it healed. "How would you know that?" "Because I was there when it happened. That's my son." The world tilted under my feet. "I think you better come in." Michael sat on the edge of the couch like someone who might bolt. I offered him coffee, but he declined. His hands were clenched tightly in his lap. "I don't know where to begin," he said. "Start wherever you can." "Vanessa and I were together for 2 years. Before she met your son, we were serious. Lived together. Talked about getting married. Then she got pregnant." He looked away for a second, then back at me. I was thrilled. I wanted to build a life with her. But she kept stalling, said she needed time. And one day she was just gone. No note. No goodbye. Everything, her clothes, her photos vanished. My stomach turned. I filed a missing person report. Hired a private investigator. Nothing. She had disappeared completely. That was 7 years ago. "And now you think Logan is your son?" "I don't think. I know." He pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of himself as a child 7 years old. It was like looking at Logan in a mirror. Same eyes, same stubborn little jaw, same exact smile. Everything I thought I knew began to crumble. I sat across from Michael, gripping my coffee mug with both hands. I didn't speak. I just listened. "I tried to move on," he said, his voice lower now. "But I never stopped thinking about her. Or the baby. 3 months ago I was in Sacramento for a work conference. I was walking near the riverfront during lunch, and I saw them, Vanessa, and a little boy." He paused. I knew. The second I saw him. The way he tilted his head. The way he ran. I followed them for 3 blocks, just watching. And the more I watched, the more I was certain. He reached into his coat and pulled out a manila envelope. I hired another investigator, a better one this time. He handed the envelope to me. "Her name isn't Vanessa Harper. It's Margaret Whitaker. And this isn't the first time she's done this." Inside were records, photos, marriage certificates, divorce filings. "She's been married twice before," he continued. "Once in Nevada, once in Oregon. Both marriages lasted under 2 years. Both men had no idea what hit them. Same pattern. Sudden whirlwind romance. Fast marriage. Then isolation. Cut off from friends. Cut off from family." He pointed at a yearbook photo. She looked younger. Her hair was darker. Her smile harder. "She grew up in foster care. No stable family. No connections. She aged out of the system at 18 and reinvented herself every couple of years. Every time she needed a new identity, she moved, changed her name, started over." The weight of it all sank deeper. She left me when she was 2 months pregnant, just starting to show. That was around the same time she met your son. I thought back to when Elliot first introduced us to Vanessa. He had been glowing, nervous, proud. She's amazing, Mom. She's so mature, so grounded. Vanessa had smiled sweetly, confidently. She brought homemade cookies, complimented my curtains, and within 6 months, they were married. I remember thinking how fast it all felt, but Elliot was happy. And then came the news Vanessa was pregnant. The baby came early, 7 weeks early, they said, but he was perfectly healthy. Small, but strong. Now I understood why. Logan wasn't premature, Michael said quietly. He was exactly on time. Just not on your son's timeline. My hands were trembling. She used Elliot. She needed a stable man to raise a child that wasn't his. Michael nodded grimly. And she knew he wouldn't question it. She could present the baby as his, say he came early. Say anything. Your son would believe her. Because Elliot trusted people. Because he saw the good in them. Because he had inherited that from me. She's good at this, Michael added. Too good. And I realized then, with a slow, painful clarity, Vanessa hadn't just removed me from the picture because she disliked me. She had done it because I was dangerous. Because I remembered when they met. Because I knew the timing. Because I asked questions. She hadn't just pushed me away. She'd erased me. Piece by piece. To protect the lie she built her lies on. I knew I couldn't keep this to myself, not anymore. That weekend I invited Elliot, Vanessa, and the children over for dinner. My voice on the phone was steady, cheerful, practiced. I had rehearsed this call dozens of times. I'd love to have everyone over, I said. Just a quiet dinner. It's been a while. Elliot hesitated. Are you okay, Mom? You sound serious. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just some things I'd like to talk about. Nothing dramatic. Saturday at 6? He paused. Let me check with Vanessa. Of course. 2 hours later he called back. We'll be there. Saturday arrived gray and cool. I made pot roast, Elliot's favorite since he was a boy. Garlic mashed potatoes. Fresh green beans with toasted almonds. The dining room table was set with my good china, the same plates I'd laid out for my birthday. At 6 sharp they arrived. Logan burst through the door first. Grandma, I learned to swim on the cruise. Want to see my doggy paddle? My heart clenched. After dinner, sweetheart. Emma followed more quietly, clutching a doll. Vanessa came in last, radiant in a cream-colored dress, her hair glossy, makeup flawless. She looked like the perfect picture of a doting mother and devoted wife. Everything smells amazing, Helen, she said with a practiced smile. Elliot hugged me warmly. We missed you, Mom. I forced a smile. I missed you too. We sat down to dinner. The kids chattered about snorkeling and cruise ship buffets. Vanessa played the part beautifully, cutting Logan's meat, wiping Emma's hands, laughing at the right moments. But I noticed things now. The way she interrupted Logan when he mentioned missing me. The way she redirected Emma's attention when the little girl asked why I hadn't come on the trip. Control. Always control. After the children finished eating, I suggested they play in the living room. Vanessa stood immediately. Actually, we should be heading out soon. Tomorrow's a school day. This won't take long, I said, my tone firmer. Please, sit. She hesitated, then slowly returned to her seat. I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up the manila folder. I wanted to talk about family, I said, placing the folder on the table between us, and about the truth. Elliot frowned. What's this? DNA test results, I said quietly, for Logan. The silence was immediate and absolute. Elliot stared at the folder like it might bite him. Vanessa's face went pale. A DNA test, Elliot said finally. Why would you? Because I needed to know. And so do you. I opened the folder and slid the paper toward him. There's a 99.7% probability that you are not Logan's biological father. Vanessa shot to her feet. This is insane. This is a violation. Helen, how dare you? Sit down, Margaret. The name hit her like a slap. She staggered back. Her face drained of color. She looked at Elliot. He was frozen in place. Margaret, he whispered. I pulled out more documents, her past marriages, her original name, the timeline. She's not who you think she is, I said. And Logan isn't who you think he is either. Everything we had avoided was now on the table, and there was no going back. For a moment, no one moved. Vanessa or Margaret stood frozen near the doorway. Elliot sat hunched over the DNA results, reading them again and again, like repetition might somehow make them false. "She's lying," Vanessa said, her voice trembling now. "Elliot, this is your mother. She's always hated me. She made this up." "Enough," I said, softly but firmly. "The lies stop here." I slid the rest of the documents across the table, the yearbook photos, the marriage records, the timeline of her movements across different states. Elliot didn't speak. He just stared, his eyes wide, unfocused. Then, quietly, he asked, "When did you know?" "I suspected after my birthday," I said. "But I didn't confirm until Michael came to see me. The man you never knew about. The man she left when she was already pregnant." Vanessa didn't deny it this time. She just closed her eyes, her breathing shallow. "And the cruise?" Elliot asked, still not looking up. "That wasn't just coincidence, was it?" She didn't answer. "You planned it on her birthday," he said, his voice hollow. "You made sure we were all together except her." Still silence. Elliot stood up slowly, pushing his chair back. "I don't even know who you are." "I did it to protect our family," she whispered. "No," he snapped. "You did it to protect yourself. You built this entire life on a lie." From the living room came the sound of children laughing. Logan and Emma, unaware that their world had just been split in half. "What do I tell them?" Elliot asked, turning to me. "What do I say to my son who isn't really mine?" I placed my hand over his. "You tell him the truth. Gently, slowly, with love. You're still his father in every way that matters." He looked at me, tears in his eyes. "And Michael?" "He doesn't want to take Logan away. He just wants to be part of his life." At that, Vanessa turned toward the door. I called after her. "Margaret." She stopped, but didn't turn around. "If you run, we'll find you. If you try to take the children, we will stop you. This time, you don't get to disappear." She walked out without a word, just like she had 7 years ago. But this time, she left everything behind. The months that followed were difficult. Elliot filed for divorce. Vanessa Margaret agreed to surrender custody in exchange for avoiding legal consequences. She vanished again. No goodbye to the children, no postcards, no closure. Logan struggled at first. There were tears, nightmares, questions he couldn't fully form. But therapy helped. So did stability. And so did Michael. He moved into an apartment 10 minutes away, close enough to be involved, far enough to give everyone space. We became something none of us expected, a new kind of family. Logan now calls Elliot Dad and Michael Daddy Mike. Emma accepted it faster than I thought she would. Children, it turns out, don't need things to be perfect, just real. We found a rhythm: Sunday dinners, school drop-offs, soccer games and dance recitals. It wasn't the life we thought we'd have, but it was honest. And it was ours. 6 months after that unforgettable dinner, I stood in my kitchen stirring gravy, while Logan set the table and Emma arranged napkins like she was folding swans. The house was filled with warmth and the faint sound of laughter from the living room. Elliot walked in, carrying a bouquet of daisies. "Yellow," he said, smiling. "Your favorite." It had been months since I'd seen him this relaxed. The tension that once clouded his face had lifted. The constant second-guessing, the quiet exhaustion, it was gone. He was still healing. We all were, but we were no longer broken. Michael arrived a few minutes later with dessert in one hand and Logan's overnight backpack in the other. He greeted me with a hug and a soft, steady smile. He'd taken to Sunday dinners like he'd always belonged here. After dinner, as the kids watched a movie in the living room, the 3 of us sat around the table with coffee and pie. "I spoke with my lawyer yesterday," Elliot said, stirring cream into his cup. "The divorce is final." I reached over and squeezed his hand. "How do you feel?" "Relieved," he said, and angry at myself, for not seeing it sooner, for not protecting Logan from it all. "You did your best," I said. "You loved fully and honestly. That's never something to feel ashamed of." Michael nodded. "If it weren't for you, Helen, I wouldn't know my son even exists. And Elliot, I wouldn't know you either, and that would have been a loss." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded document. "I've been thinking," he said, Logan's always been a Carter, but I want him to have part of my name too. So I filed paperwork to become Michael Carter Chong. I want him to feel like all the parts of his life belong in one place. Elliot looked at him for a long time, then stood and shook his hand. That means a lot, he said. Thank you. Later, as the night wound down and Michael packed up the kids for their overnight visit, Logan tugged on my sleeve. Grandma, he whispered, can I tell you something? Of course. I like having two dads, he said, beaming, but I'm really glad I still have you. I hugged him tightly, blinking back tears. I'm not going anywhere, sweetheart. After they left, I made a cup of tea and sat by the window, looking out over the garden I had once tended with Elliot when he was a boy. So much had changed. But I hadn't disappeared. Vanessa knew Margaret had tried to erase me. She had rewritten our family story in her own image. But in the end, the truth rewrote it back. We weren't a conventional family, but we were real, and we had earned every inch of our healing. And this time I knew something for certain. I hadn't been erased. I had been reclaimed. If you've made it this far, thank you for sitting with my story, for listening not just to the facts, but to the feelings that came with them. This isn't just about betrayal, or lies, or one woman trying to erase another from her family. It's about what happens when we choose to fight not with cruelty, but with clarity, not with vengeance but with truth. I don't know what Vanessa Margaret is doing now. I don't think about her often. She walked away from something real. Something flawed, yes, but honest, and that's her loss to live with. Me? I've got Sunday dinners, 2 grandchildren who run into my arms, and a son who now sees me clearly. I've got peace. I've got my place back. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. If you've ever felt pushed aside, if you've ever questioned your worth within your own family, you're not alone. Leave a comment below. Share your story if you're ready. Or just let us know where you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. And if this touched something in you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because the more we speak up, the harder it becomes for anyone to silence us. Thank you for watching.